For young gymnasts with Olympic dreams, Dr. Larry Nassar was like a god, the official physician for Team USA. But now athletes from around the country are coming forward to say they now realize he sexually abused them, all under the guise of medical treatment.
I don't know who you are now. Maybe I never knew. Maybe none of us did.
Inmate Nassar. That is what your name is. And don't you forget that.
And while we all are moving mountains, you, Larry, will have no choice but to sit in prison and wait to die.
Earlier today, Nassar was charged with 22 counts of criminal sexual conduct in Michigan, 5 of which relate to victims who are under 13 years old. The charges relate to Nassar's time in the state, where he was a faculty member at Michigan State University. He pleaded not guilty.
After a week-long hearing, Michigan Judge Rosemarie Aquilina pronounced Larry Nassar's fate, up to 175 years for sexually assaulting scores of women and girls, including Olympic gold gymnasts, under the guise of medical treatment.
I will be out in the real world, thriving, empowering, and standing by others, while you rot in a prison cell the rest of your life.
You hid for years behind Olympic rings and a Spartan head, but there is now nowhere left for you to hide, Larry.
With the sentence, the courtroom erupted in clapping as some of Nassar's victims and the prosecution team embraced. The former sports doctor had pleaded guilty to victimizing young athletes over more than 2 decades with USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University. More than 150 victims had shared wrenching testimony over the past 7 days.
By Larry, but she didn't believe me because my sister had been going to him for years before I did. And she never said anything to her. So I talked it through. We talked it through together, and we figured that it was just his type of manipulation. Little did we know that the type of manipulation that he was doing was not just to my body and others, but also to all of our minds as well. After that dreadful appointment, I decided to never step foot in his office again. Because of that, I had to deal with my injuries, because I sure as hell was never going to let him touch me again. I feel my own sense of guilt, because I was 16 years old. And I should have stopped this monster from hurting other girls, because I knew that what he did to me was wrong.
Doctor had pleaded guilty to victimizing young athletes over more than 2 decades with USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University. Today, Nassar attempted to apologize to his victims.
There are no words that can describe the depth and breadth of how sorry I am for what has occurred.
But the judge was having none of it. She read parts of a letter that Nassar had submitted to the court in which he charged his accusers were not telling the truth. And now the NCAA has launched an investigation of Michigan State. That news reported that 14 university officials learned of Nassar's crimes over the past 20 years but did nothing. Judge Aquilina called today for a federal investigation into how Nassar wasn't exposed earlier. The Michigan Assistant Attorney General, Angela Povilitis, said Nassar would still be in his position had it not been for those who bravely came forward.
But even though I'm a victim, I do not and will not live my life as one. I'm an Olympian. Despite being abused, I worked so hard and managed to achieve my goal. But I want everyone, especially the media, to know that despite my athletic achievements, I am one of over 140 women and survivors whose story is important.
Nassar has already been sentenced to 60 years in federal prison for possession of child pornography. There were also new developments late today related to the leadership and culture of gymnastics that allowed these assaults to continue for years. The CEO of the U.S. Olympic Committee apologized for failing to protect the girls and women involved. He also called for the resignation of the entire board of directors of USA Gymnastics. And Michigan lawmakers called for the resignation of the Michigan State University president. After 7 days of painful testimony, there are still so many questions about why the abuse went on for so long.